In 2025, Boeing is no longer the giant, freely soaring across the global skies. It is plunging into an unprecedented death spiral. The thunderous tariff blows from the Trump administration, a baseline 10% on most imports, 25% on Canada and Mexico, and a crippling 60% hit on China, have ignited a global trade and political war with devastating force. In the blink of an eye, multi-billion-dollar contracts were frozen right on the runway. Dozens of 737 MAX fuselages worth billions of dollars sat stranded like iron birds with broken wings inside factories. And the supply chain from Everett, Wichita to Querétaro shuddered. While Airbus and Comac close in step by step, Boeing is left grappling with a tariff wall erected right on its home turf, where protectionist policy is turning America's industrial pride into prey in its own game. In April of 2025, Beijing delivered a direct counterstrike that sent the U.S. aviation industry reeling, halting all acceptance of Boeing aircraft and blocking the purchase of U.S. aviation components. This was not just a trade decision. It was a strategic retaliation against the Trump administration's new tariff package, a 10% levy on most imports, 25% on Canada and Mexico, and a punishing 60% on China. In less than a week, 3 Boeing 737 MAX aircraft were forced to turn back to the United States, including one fully completed and painted in Xiamen Airlines livery. With each fuselage valued at $55 million, the stranded airframes quickly pushed inventory beyond $2.5 billion, adding $15 million per month in maintenance and storage costs. This was a double blow to Boeing's finances and operations, turning its factories into giant parking lots for planes that could not take off. The fallout spread like a chain reaction. Second quarter delivery plans collapsed, forcing international airlines to urgently adjust flight schedules and maintenance programs. While hundreds of suppliers from Everett and Renton in Washington to Wichita in Kansas faced a cash flow freeze, many subcontractors were forced to halt contracts, raising the specter of mass layoffs. Although in early June, U.S.-China tensions temporarily eased and Boeing managed to deliver 8 aircraft to Chinese customers, the policy risk still loomed overhead. This uncertainty forced Boeing to rapidly redraw its order map, shifting toward India, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. But this is a double-edged sword. While it opens new opportunities, it also throws Boeing into fiercely competitive markets where Airbus and Comac are already deeply entrenched, backed by long-term contracts and home government support. For years, Boeing has built a strategic manufacturing network in Mexico, an aerospace hub valued at $11.73 billion in 2024, with a projected annual growth rate of 17.2% through 2034. From Querétaro to Chihuahua and Baja California, factories here handle everything from interiors and fuselages to engine components for the 737 MAX, playing a crucial role in the global supply chain. The plan to boost production share in Mexico was initially seen as a smart move, reducing costs and spreading risk, especially as trade tensions with China escalated. But those calculations were quickly upended when the Trump administration imposed a 25% tariff on goods imported from Mexico into the United States. A solid economic strategy was suddenly turned into a political crime, with many lawmakers and U.S. media slapping on the label of shipping jobs overseas, triggering a wave of intense public backlash. The pressure grew even heavier when major partners like Howmet Aerospace warned they would halt component supplies if costs rose beyond acceptable limits. This put Boeing in a dangerous pincer position. Production costs in Mexico soaring, while relations with Washington became more strained than ever. This is not just a trade dispute, it's a political tinderbox that could erupt into a new crisis at any moment. The freeze order on Chinese aircraft purchases immediately triggered a seismic shock in the aviation industry. The shortage of new planes forced international airlines to cut U.S.-Asia flight frequencies by 8%, placing direct pressure on passengers. On the critical Los Angeles-Beijing route, round-trip fares surged from $1,200 to $1,450 in just 1 month, a jump of 16 to 20%. For a family of 4, That near $1,000 difference not only wiped out plans for a dream vacation, but also squeezed household budgets, cutting spending in tourism, restaurants, hotels, and retail. The impact didn't stop at the airport. It shot straight into the manufacturing hubs. In Wichita, the heart of fuselage production, 600 temporary workers at Spirit Aerosystems were forced to reduce hours or take unpaid leave. In Everett and Renton, the two main assembly sites for the 737 MAX, over 1,200 workers had to rotate shifts, losing 20 to 30% of their monthly income. With an average salary of $68,000 per year, this was a direct hit to living expenses, forcing many families to tighten spending on housing, food, and tuition. When key suppliers like Howmet Aerospace invoked force majeure clauses to halt component deliveries, the domino effect began. Hundreds of subcontractors, from transportation, warehousing, and logistics to technical maintenance, simultaneously lost contracts and revenue. From a single halt order on the runway, an entire industrial and consumer ecosystem was pulled into a downturn spiral, exposing the fragility of America's aerospace supply chain. Under the tightening grip of global tariffs and political pressure, Boeing remains mired in a crisis of confidence. With the NTSB concluding that the Alaska Airlines door blowout was caused by LAX quality control procedures. A substandard 787 Dreamliner component incident in Italy has shaken the global supply chain. The FAA is maintaining the 737 MAX production cap at 38 aircraft per month, despite strong demand. Meanwhile, Airbus has pulled ahead with 373 aircraft delivered since the start of 2025. Compared to Boeing's 328. In the narrow-body segment, the A320neo has outpaced the 737 MAX in both output and reliability. New competitor Comac C919, though not expected to receive EASA certification before 2028, has already penetrated Southeast Asia, targeting price-sensitive markets where Boeing once held the upper hand. An impressive start. In the first quarter of 2025, Boeing delivered 130 aircraft, up 57% from 83 in the same period of 2024, marking the highest first-quarter total since before the pandemic. In the second quarter, revenue jumped to $22.7 billion, up 35% year-on-year, thanks to increased output. But net loss still stood at $612 million, due to defect remediation, additional inspections, and inventory handling. Free cash flow remained negative, showing that financial pressure has not disappeared. 6 months of acceleration, but long-term stability is far from certain. In the first half of the year, Boeing delivered 280 aircraft, its best performance since 2018, with a backlog holding at $619 billion, equal to more than 5,900 orders. However, in July, only 48 aircraft were delivered, down 20% from 60 in June. A clear sign the recovery's momentum is fragile. 3 main bottlenecks are holding back speed. Production limits. The FAA still caps 737 MAX output at 38 units per month, restricting the ability to scale despite high demand. Extraordinary costs. Rework, process upgrades, and quality control oversight continue to eat into margins. Supply chain risks. A single disruption can delay deliveries for weeks, or even months. Boeing is the mirror of every global corporation in the era of protectionism, forced to safeguard national interests while maintaining an international position. Its success or failure will depend on whether it can turn short-term recovery numbers into a sustainable foundation, weathering the storm of tariffs, political pressure, and an increasingly brutal global competition.